Hello, and welcome back to What We Pod in the Shadows, where we're currently going back and discussing the show from the very beginning. That is to say, what we do in the shadows. This week, we're talking about the episode Animal Control. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison. So, before we start, and I mean, this gets proven wrong as we go along. And yes, we've watched this before, but I didn't remember the part that happens later. But I am just not even sure that the Jeff guy is her Gregor. And so, yeah, I was very sketchy on that, but I've been proven wrong.
Yes, for the contents of the episode itself.
Also, even when she goes over his past jobs, I'm like, why is she so impressed with this man?
She has strange taste.
Nadja and Laszlo are outside walking the neighborhood at night, having just fed. Laszlo wants to feed again on a new neighbor, Phil, but Nadja wants to do something different. Then we switch to Nandor, watches them through a spyglass while he and Guillermo play chess. I put spyglass because I couldn't think of any other word for that thing, because it wasn't binoculars. Laszlo flies up to Phil's window as a bat, and Phil lets him in. I don't know why Phil opens the window. Then he transforms back to his human form and begs Phil to submit to his dark power. Phil's girlfriend or wife comes in. Laszlo turns back into a bat, and she beats him over and over with a broom. I'm not sure when this occurred to me, but I'm like, I don't know how this group of vampires have survived centuries.
Yeah. They're so incompetent in so many ways.
Well, I feel like it's a lot of times it's shit Laszlo does, but
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like Laszlo maybe just kind of has survived so long because he's had Nadja there to save his ass.
Guillermo and Nandor enlist Colin's help, but Nadja has run off to see what her long-lost Gregor is doing.
Her only criticism of Gregor is that he's been decapitated in each of his lives. I guess apparently many of his jobs in the past, he was some sort of monger of some kind. Fishmonger, flymonger. I forget what the third thing was. She watches him on night guard duty at a parking garage, and a couple of teens walk past the arm thingy that comes down from the booth, and he kind of walks after them to try to get them, but he's pretty pathetic about it. Nandor, Colin, and Guillermo argue about who should rescue Laszlo from Phil's house when Animal Control comes to pick up Laszlo. Nadja wants to visit Gregor at his job, but she has to be invited in, so she reluctantly attempts to call him by his name in this life, Jeff, though she calls him Jesk. Jeff is excited to see her again and lets her into the parking garage. Nadja says she has crossed oceans of time to find him. She says that it is forbidden, but she'll meet him in 15 minutes after he's done at work.
Well, that's a quote from the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie, right?
I think so, yeah. I thought I'd heard it from somewhere, and I figured it was some sort of other vampire movie or franchise.
I kind of get maybe if people are meant to be together or whatever, that they would keep running into each other, but just the fact that this is why I was just skeptical. Just some random parking garage dude. I could see if he was more of a majestic person, in this day and age, maybe even a cop or a firefighter, possibly. And they had crossed paths, for some reason, because he had to come to her house, maybe to, put out a fire or check on something. But
yeah.
There's no reason for her to be in a parking garage, for them to cross paths. I don't know. I'm not sure if you just said this or not. They agree to hang out after he gets done with work, and she says he has a lot of sexual energy. I mean, I guess that's debatable. Nandor and Colin plot how to get Laszlo from the animal shelter before daylight. Colin mocks the vampire's weakness to sunlight, because he's like, yeah, you guys are immortal, but you can't do brunch.
Yeah.
Nadja and Gregor go to a carnival. Nadja says it's like a freak show. They have to be invited into the shelter and try to sneak around. I know this stuff goes back and forth between these two storylines. It's a little confusing. I don't know if Colin necessarily has to be, but Nandor does.
Yeah, that tripped me up because I always thought vampires just had to be invited into a private dwelling, and an animal shelter is kind of more like a public space. And same with the parking garage.
Yeah, like when they went shopping, Guillermo takes them shopping or whatever. They don't have to be invited into a store.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, does he have to be invited in to go to fucking Costco? Like, what?
I mean, I guess maybe they have to be buzzed in or have a reason to be there for them to let them in. Maybe that's part of it. Because usually I'm confused by the animal shelter. A lot of these animal shelters are like hours while people are working. And so, like, how am I supposed to adopt an animal when you guys close at 4 or 5?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of confused why they're open at night and they're even letting people in there.
Yeah.
The workers laugh over pics of Laszlo in bat form looking like an old Englishman and having an erection. Nandor tries to hypnotize them to bring him the bat, but they ignore him. Gregor insists Nadja eats popcorn and then she projectile vomits. Colin distracts one of the workers by talking about the different forms that they have at the shelter that need to be filled out, while Nandor sneaks in an open window in bat form.
So he goes in there and he pops back into human form. He tries to hide his face on camera with his cloak as he picks up the cage that he thinks Laszlo is in. Nadja encourages Jesk to play an archery game because the bow and arrow was his specialty in a past life, but he sucks at it, so she's like, what have you become? Nandor brings the bat out to Colin and Guillermo, but when he lets it out, it flies at Guillermo and then away into the night sky. We cut to Laszlo in vampire form back in animal control. It turns out they freed a sick bat. Nadja says Jeff was much more interesting in other past lives and boring now because his parents named him Jeff. She makes fun of his name to his face, which upsets him because it was his uncle and grandpa's names too. Nadja hypnotizes him to remember his past lives. He remembers a fearsome battle on a hill and wanting to get back home to Nadja. She skips to another life and he's about to be decapitated, and then to another after that where he's a horse when that one is about to get decapitated.
Right, it's like when once he was hypnotized, like his voice became deeper and he sort of sounded like Thor because he had like a slight British accent going on. He seemed a little more attractive with that voice happening. But I mean, he's running around the whole time with one of them hats with flaps for the ears. Laszlo transforms into his human form in the animal cage. The animal control lady brings in a dog, and it turns out to be Nandor, and now they are both stuck in cages. Nadja and Gregor steal a ride off of a police horse back to the parking garage he works at, and he shoots 3 of the skateboarders with the suction cup arrows. Nadja and Gregor dance, and she works him into a frenzy when he wants to sleep with her on the floor of the garage, or where he's so worked up he wants to sleep with her on the floor of the garage. But she quickly decides to leave when she gets a phone call from Guillermo about Laszlo.
Gregor pleads for her to stay, saying he has died for her so many times, but she says she is needed elsewhere. She disappears into the darkness, and when he goes to look at her, she's left behind a big-ass pile of rats. Nadja arrives at animal control and very easily hypnotizes one of the workers to get the door code, which she frees Laszlo and Nandor, and then Laszlo says he wants to free his fellow inmates, which would be like, a bunch of cats and stuff. Gregor, still reliving his past lives, is arrested, I guess, for freaking out really hard. Laszlo lets all the cats out and they claw onto him as he runs away. Release your claws, you ungrateful bastards, he says.
And Nadja just kind of looks on, disgusted. She's just kind of, disgusted at Laszlo a lot.
Yeah.
Because he does stupid shit. I do feel bad for Gregor. He seemed to be having some sort of existential crisis because it's not like he just remembered, one past life. He's, remembering them all.
Yes. The poor man.
And then Nadja, I'm not sure if we see him again, but she just kind of left him in that state. She needs to go back and tell him to forget or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe remember the best of those guys, but not 10 or 20.
Or just do something to ease him through it. Because she kind of was like, oh, you're getting decapitated again? Bam, let's go on to the next one.
I'm not sure why he kept going to the point of his decapitation.
Yeah. I think maybe there'd be something earlier on there, unless somehow she's just here's all the memories of me, and then somehow that always the relationship leads him to getting his head gone.
Maybe. So, like, Gregor, Guillermo rides up on a bicycle, and, like, later on, he has a car. Like, I don't know. When does the car come in existence?
Yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't like Laszlo's like old-timey, old-fashioned car either. It was like a modern car.
I don't know. All this stuff is just kind of like him turning into a bat. And I understand Naja, like, she's like, we did just feed. So, like, if they hadn't fed, I might be a little more sympathetic to Laszlo, but they had already fed on people.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really need to occur. And I'm not sure if animal control would have taken a bat. I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but I've never really had to like mess with animal control, so I don't really know.
Or, like, once they beat the crap out of him, why they didn't just, like, stick the bat outside or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm thinking animal control, because, like, they went after Laszlo pretty quickly. Would have shown up that quickly.
Yeah.
And or even taken a bat. But, again, sometimes you have to...
Suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
I did like though that Laszlo he would promise the other animals that he would let them out, and so he's like he still wanted to do that once he was free. He's like, no, I made a promise.
Yeah, he was trying to get, like, one of the cats to open the cage door with its paw, but it didn't. I don't think he either didn't hypnotize it properly or, like, the cat. It may not have been possible for the cat to do.
Yeah.
The cats are pretty clever, but I don't know if it needed, turned or whatever, if it could have figured that out. And then, okay, one thing we're sleeping on. Since when can Nandor just change into anything that he wants? Like, I knew they could do bats, although it's always Laszlo going, bat, and then he turns into a bat. But, like...
He turned into fog that one time.
They go on later about shapeshifters, but isn't that shapeshifting? Like, not the bat part. I'm just assuming that's part of being a vampire, but can any of them turn into any animal?
I feel like in the one Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s, I feel like that maybe Dracula or some vampire like turned into a wolf. I may be misremembering.
I mean, these guys specifically.
Yeah.
Can Naja just turn into any animal? Can Laszlo just turn into... I mean, I'm not sure if we see that again.
I was just, because a lot of this is based on like classic, like old timey, like vampire shit. So I just was like saying, like, Dracula could do it, so maybe they can.
And then they stuck Laszlo as a bat into one of those big cages. I'm just thinking he could have just crawled out between the bars as a bat. And then the window was open. Like, I don't know. Like, this whole, both storylines is just... I did like Jeff/Gregor, like, shooting the kids with the suction cup arrows. That was, like, pretty funny.
Yeah.
What's the next episode?
The next episode is called Baron's Night Out. So we're gonna get back to the Baron, I think.
I like the stuff with the Baron. I'm just wondering if we're going back to, like, the Jenna chick, but maybe she's gonna sit and percolate there for a while, because I'm thinking we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
I don't like this stuff with Naja, like, giving Gregor all his memories back and then kind of leaving him. It's not cool. And then doing that with Jenna, because she's just a college kid.
Yeah.
And not really at least, like, helping her through it and to understand what has happened. Like, Jenna doesn't even have any idea that she's a vampire and, like, what's happening to her.
Yeah, not just kind of being like a really shitty vampire sire by just like ditching her basically to deal with all this.
Being kind of reckless and, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like just shit for her entertainment or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess if we have nothing else to add, I guess we'll leave our discussion here. Like I said, we are going to be talking about Baron's Night Out next time. If you have been listening to the pod and you enjoy it so far and you haven't already, it would be super cool if you would subscribe/follow and leave a review depending on what platform you're listening on. If you're listening to this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. You want to talk about the episode, you want to talk about our podcast itself, feel free to do so. We would love to get more comments and reviews. It would really help get us out there to a larger, wider audience.
And if you enjoy, please share with your friends again, so we're getting out to a wider audience. And we also have a second podcast, Mojo Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, where we are alternating between discussing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and the classic Powerpuff Girls TV show. And we've got many more episodes out of that. So if you want to hear more from us, we're now on season 2 of JoJo, and we've just completed season 2 of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah. So, for those of you at home that's JoJo fans, we're on Stardust Crusaders. We're going to do the first half of that, and then we're going to go back to season 3 of the Powerpuff Girls after we're finished with the first half of Stardust Crusaders.
If you're wondering where to watch some of these shows, like if you want to watch before you listen to our episodes, What We Do in the Shadows is on Hulu and FX. I'm not sure where else. And then JoJo is also on Hulu.
Yeah, and on Netflix as well.
We are watching the Powerpuff Girls on discs, but it's on Netflix too.
Yeah, and I think it's also on HBO Max. I'm not sure for how much longer, because for a while there, they're like, oh, this is the whole of cartoons. But then they're like, we're taking all this off here now, actually. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the pod, and that we hope you enjoy the pod. So until next time, remember, you're dead now to this world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.